Birmingham, Alabama. Once the largest city in the state, it has seen much change over its roughly 150-year existence. Once one of the most prosperous cities of the Deep South, it has seen a decline similar to that of the Rust Belt in population and economically, despite being hundreds of miles away from that region of the country. This has also occurred despite the population gains of several nearby large cities within its region. This is what happened to Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham, Alabama would be established in 1871 near the geographical center of the state. Its location had been settled for several decades prior due to its proximity to the Appalachian Mountains, which provided multiple natural resources through mining, and its location at the intersection of two railroads. Located near much iron ore in the area, it would be given the name of the major iron-producing city of England. It would thrive early on with its production of pig iron and mining of iron ore and coal. In a time where towns and cities of the West would boom for gold, Birmingham would boom on its own discoveries of multiple minerals in the area, growing by over 700% in population from 1880 to 1890. It would continue to grow heavily on mining, steel production, and the rails, most notably through the Tennessee Coal, Iron, and Rail Company, which would eventually be headquartered in Birmingham and employ thousands in the city. Birmingham would eventually have port access as well, through river infrastructure via Mobile, and would become one of the biggest mining and steel centers outside of the Rust Belt in the late 19th century and into the 20th century. Birmingham would continue to grow quickly, going from just over 26,000 people in 1890 to over 132,000 people in 1910. Companies such as Tennessee Coal and Iron, which by 1910 was under U.S. Steel, and the Sloss Furnace Company would be instrumental in this growth in the past and over the next 20 years, where Birmingham would double in population. The Great Depression, however, would nearly stop Birmingham's growth in its tracks. U.S. Steel would cut production at Tennessee Coal and Iron, and this would have a major impact on the city of Birmingham, as over 10% of the city's population would be working at Tennessee Coal and Iron at that point in time. Birmingham's population would remain relatively flat throughout the 30s, however would balloon again in the 40s, as expansions in production and employment at the steel companies due to World War II would put the city on the map again, and many of the jobs stuck after the war was over, with U.S. Steel via Tennessee Coal and Iron employing into the high 20,000s range in Birmingham into the 50s. Birmingham would grow to a peak of just over 340,000 people in the 1960 census. Manufacturing of goods other than steel would also come into play, and while all seemed well for Birmingham, it would be from this point forward that its long decline would begin. The civil rights movement in the early 60s would particularly stir up Birmingham, causing much racial and social tension in the city, and much white flight would occur in subsequent years. However, like many of the cities of the Rust Belt up north, Birmingham would decline, as its economy was quite similar to the cities of the north in the Rust Belt. In the 1980s, Sloss Furnace would go defunct, and U.S. Steel would shed thousands of jobs from the city. Coal mining over time would also require less labor as technology improved. Rail travel and transport would decline as well, and the Louisville and Nashville and Southern railroads would go defunct in the 1980s, two of Birmingham's biggest lines. From 1960 to 2020, the city has lost roughly 140,000 people, sitting at around 200,000 today. As of today, it is estimated that it is now the third largest city in Alabama, after being the largest for many, many years. So what happened? To put it simply, Birmingham was developed and grew on a different style economy than most cities of the South are today. Its similarities in its economy to the Rust Belt would mean that it would grow and decline during the same general time period and for many of the same reasons as many of the cities of the Rust Belt. Despite its population losses, it has been able to diversify and reinvent its economy somewhat, being an education and banking hub, with colleges such as the University of Alabama at Birmingham and banks such as Regions Financial and Compass Bank Shares. It's also still a major producer of steel, despite the many job losses. Birmingham's ability to adjust to a more service-based economy will likely determine its future. In a time where not too distant similarly sized cities such as Chattanooga and Huntsville have been able to turn the corner on population loss and begin to grow again, it remains to be seen if Birmingham can follow. Thank you for watching.